Hi, and welcome to the recording of our presentation for PBIS Office Hours Session 1, scheduled for October 6, 2022. We're glad to see you've taken this time to listen and watch this recording with us here today. This is the first of several office hours we'll be hosting this year, and we hope to make these as purposeful as we can for you and your teams. The only way we can do that, though, is with your participation and feedback. So please join us live on October 6th from 8:30 to 10:30. We'll be here to support you and your school's implementation of PBIS. Think of this as your support hours. Additionally, follow us on social media too. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter with almost any general search for SST Region 5 or State Support Team Region 5. If those do not work for you, the links are right here on the slide for you as well. Boy, how rude of me not to have already introduced myself. But I'm Matthew Heath. I'm joined in this presentation today by Jessica Dedick. She's right there at the top of the slide, and Dr. Marla Peachock, who's at the bottom of the slide. I guess you couldn't have roses without having a few thorns, and these two happen to be stuck with me, their thorn. We're consultants with the State Support Team Region 5, as well as the PBIS team and support for PBIS in the region. For today, our objectives are 1. Participants will align the TFI with their action plan. 2. Participants will be introduced to the concept of an action plan and calendar. And 3. Participants will explore how data drives action steps. Additionally, today, we'll be honing in on and discussing action plans for Tier 1 and Tier 2, and leading into possible Tier 2 supports. We have some fictitious data we're going to be examining as a mock PBIS school leadership team, attempting to identify a systemic problem versus a small group problem, providing some binder reminders, and modeling good practices. All in all, you're going to get to hear and see the three of us in sort of a podcast-style discussion, getting into some detail about action planning, next steps, who's assigned to what responsibilities, and so on. For this year, our scope and sequence at this time also includes us looking at decision rules, acknowledgement systems, and obviously recognition assistance in the remaining sessions. Of course, if you have a specific need, we'd also like to be here to help provide you with that target assistance as well. So don't hesitate to let one of us know what your needs might be. Next up, we have our intention setting. We've told you what we intend to do, and now it's your turn to reflect on what you intend to do as well. We can't address your needs unless we somehow know what those are, or unless you make yourself an active participant in either this session or our live session on October 6th. So we ask you all to take a minute or two, pause this recording, and write down your thoughts on what you want to know or learn more about by the end of this session. And what are you going to do to ensure those needs are met? Think about that, pause this video if needed, and write down those ideas, and once they're written down, hold yourself accountable to those. Hopefully you spent a moment thinking about how you want to experience today's recording. A couple slides ago, I briefly mentioned our agenda for today while presenting the objectives. To build upon that, we're going to start off by talking about the why for action planning as well as the importance of it. Then, you'll see us examine some mock data as a school PBIS team and put some of that action planning into practice. Following that, we're going to extend that action planning into creating a calendar to help us achieve those actions in a timely manner, and then we'll wrap everything up with an optimistic closure. And with any luck, you'll be walking away with some next steps for yourself, which in turn will help your PBIS team or teams with supporting implementation. On this next slide, you're going to hear from Marla as she begins our discussion of action plans.
Thanks, Matthew, for setting us up with such a strong foundation and laying the groundwork for our session today. When we think about this quote that's on the screen, by failing to plan, you are preparing to fail. We know that if we do not prepare, then we are setting ourselves up for failure. So conversely, if we do prepare, then we are setting ourselves up for success. And that is what we want to do for you. We want to set you up for success when implementing PBIS in your building. So we get asked often, do I really need an action plan? Well, the short answer is yes. A little longer answer is because action plans simply help us stay focused. Action plans are simple lists of all the tasks that you need to finish to meet an objective or a goal. They differ from a to-do list in that they are focused on achievement of a single goal. Action plans are useful because they give you this framework for thinking and how you'll complete a project efficiently. They help you finish activities in a sensible order. They help you ensure that you don't miss any key steps. Also, because you can see each task laid out, you can quickly decide which tasks you'll delegate or outsource, and which tasks you may be able to ignore. In simple terms, an action plan identifies a goal that you want to achieve. It tells you what you need to do, your action steps, who is going to do it, and when it will be done by. Where do you get the data to drive your action plan, you ask? Well, you have many sources. You have your discipline data, the surveys that you give to your staff, families, and students. For example, the self-assessment survey is one you give to your staff on an annual basis. And you have the TFI, just to name a few data points. I'm sure you can name additional data points that your team is analyzing that is making you pause and ponder. But let's just dive into one of those data sets, the TFI survey, the Tier Fidelity Inventory, which is something that you look at regularly throughout the year. Why? Because all of the data points that you will be discussing will fit within one of those features. The TFI is a fidelity measure, which means it gives you the answer to the question, are we doing what we said we would do? There are other fidelity measures you can take, but the TFI is really the only survey that lets you measure fidelity across all 3 PBIS tiers of implementation. And that's important. The TFI will guide your team in looking at what is currently in place to allow your team to begin to uncover what needs to be in place. There are many examples of action plan templates that you can use. And we actually have the Scaling Up Action Plan on our website that you are welcome to use to guide your implementation. Why do we like that one? Because it is directly aligned with the TFI features. Now let me turn it over to Jessica, where she will take you through an idea of action planning calendar and even more.
Once you've established your action plan for the year, you may want to consider creating an action plan calendar where you lay out all of the different actionable items that you've defined throughout the year so that you can ensure everything gets done. For example, here is a sample action plan calendar for just August or September, depending on when your school year starts or when your team meets back together for the beginning of the year. So in August or September, your Tier 1 team might spend some time to reevaluate or define team membership, your meeting roles, and make sure that you have a meeting schedule for the entire year. You might take some time to review your binder feedback or the TFI, assign some actions, document and share those changes that have already been made, as was mentioned on the previous slide. Then you'll also spend some time defining and sharing your written schedule for teaching expectations. And then you might want to also create and share a written process to train all of the staff on the expectations, the acknowledgement system, how to respond to challenging behavior, and how to request assistance. Those key features need to be put into place right at the very beginning of the year to ensure your success. Meanwhile, your Tier 2 team might also spend some time reevaluating or defining the team membership, your meeting roles, and their meeting schedule. They might also take some time to review binder feedback if it was submitted, or just to look over the TFI, assign those actions, and document and share those changes that are already made or you plan to make. Just again, as was mentioned in the previous slide. You might also take some time to create and share your written process to train your staff on how to refer students and how to implement each of your Tier 2 interventions that your team has established. Then you might also take some time to define or revisit your decision rules. Again, this is just a sample of how you could start your year, and then you would have new actions or some repeated actions for October and November and so on. But if you click on the sample in that slide, you can see the full year example that we have for you. Here is a sample of a data dashboard with some mock PBIS data that we're going to be using to explain how your team might walk through a data discussion during a team meeting. So here you can view a sample of what that overall summary might look like, or you can actually visit that bit.ly link to look at the actual live dashboard. But again, this is just mock data. Our team is going to show you a small video clip of a sample team discussion where the team is going to walk through looking through this exact data set. Here you will get to watch a sample team discussion as they work through the data set that was shown on the previous slide. Listen for some key conversation pieces as they work through not only their action plan, but also making some defined data decisions that are then documented in their action plan for future changes. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Are you guys doing well?
Oh, well, thank you
Yeah.
for asking.
For Wednesday.
Yeah. How are you kids doing?
Halfway through the week.
Yeah.
Great.
That's awesome.
School's good. Kids good.
That's great. Okay, well, before we get into looking at our data, I have it written down that Marla, you said you would be our timekeeper for today. So
I will do that.
thank you so much. And Matthew, you said you would take notes for us today.
Yeah, I mean, you're completely at the mercy of my note-taking abilities, but I know we rotate that responsibility. So yeah,
Thank you so
I'll
much.
do it.
All right, sounds good. So I did send out the data a couple of days ago for us to all look over. So I hope you had a chance to look at that. But was there anything right away that kind of spoke to you in the data that you noticed?
First thing that I sort of I gravitated towards was our cafeteria numbers are down. As far as location goes, which is I know in the past we've had some issues in the cafeteria, which makes sense. But so it's good to see that, that's at least one thing to celebrate. So I think that we should take at least a minute to congratulate ourselves on what we've done there.
Yeah, the cafeteria sure has come a long way. So a lot of that extra support we put into place seems to be paying off now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Mhm.
I'm going to follow that up with restrooms as well, because if you remember what our data was like last year at this time, it was through the roof. But if you look at that, we are looking at only one referral there. We'll consider it a major, but we can look into that later.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. That's another strong point that we've been focusing on. So it's excellent to see that the data is showing some progress. I am a little concerned with how high our classroom behaviors are right now. So I would like us to dig a little deeper into that. With that, I do notice that we seem to have a stronger presence in referrals in our third and fourth grade. So I'd also like to look a little more into what's actually going on in third and fourth grade.
Looks like, all our majors right now are in third and fourth grade, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. And the majority of them are coming from the month of September. Even though we have more days in September than August, it's still something we probably need to look at. So we can nip it in the bud right away.
Now I noticed that there's a higher frequency at 11 a.m. for majors. So I know that's right around a big transition time. A lot of grades are starting to go to recess or lunch or switching from specials. So I'm curious what's happening with that spike there at 11 a.m.
And if you move it over and you think about where it's coming from, when you think about recess and the time of day, and is it happening at the beginning or the end, that's something to look at too. But then look at the minors. They are seriously peaking at about 1 p.m.
Yeah. And that's a rough time of the day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of recess and lunches ended around then. Yeah, great observation. Do you guys want to dig a little deeper into what these referrals were?
Yes, because I think we need to see how, where,
Sure.
what is the incident.
I'm gonna hop on down to our all referrals so that we can see that. Let me make it a little bigger. Okay. So these are all the referrals. Obviously, it goes on for several more pages. Just for the sake of time, can I narrow it down to just third and fourth grade?
I think that's probably a really good suggestion.
At least for the sake of today's conversation,
Right.
that's probably.
Okay. Now I noticed right away there's one student that's coming out in that third grade data, and Tori has been struggling a little bit.
Okay.
Have we received any requests for assistance from any of our teachers or staff?
Not yet, not at this time.
Well, why don't we set her on table her for right now, because we do have a tier 2 meeting in a couple of days. So why don't we bring that up to that team to kind of focus on what kind of support we could put into place for her. If we keep scrolling though a little bit more, we're into those fourth grade behaviors.
That is something really to even actually identify the fact that that has now removed third grade out of our concern area.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that sort of floats to the top for me is that we probably need to revisit the expectations for recess to make sure that we know that they're being primed before our scholars go out to recess, and that they're actually being acknowledged for the behaviors we want to see when they're at recess.
Yeah. And I see several that are taking place on the same day and some are different days. I'm also curious because I know we've had some weird weather recently. Whether some of these whether it was indoor recess or outdoor recess, because I think those expectations are going to be different in the way that you play in those two different locations.
Yeah, well, we all know that that's our most unstructured time.
Are either one of you comfortable reaching out to the fourth grade teachers and offering them a little extra support with recess?
I have no problem doing that. I know I'm not a fourth grade teacher. I know I'm not even in that hallway, but maybe it might be better that I'm not in that hallway. I can actually listen to them, see what they need. Maybe there is some lack of clarity because we do have that new teacher that didn't start with us at the beginning of the school year when we actually rolled this all out. So there might be a need to just revisit this.
I agree. That's a really good idea.
We also want to make sure that I put in the notes that we would follow up about Tori
Oh, good.
in our tier 2 meeting.
Yeah. Make sure
that actually becomes part of our action plan, Matthew. So after you transfer from the notes, make sure it aligns with our action plan of what we're going to do. I think we might want to even just check in maybe with the classroom teachers while we're talking about recess, because there might be a little bit of a pattern there that we can actually just double check what's going on in the classroom too, even though they're minor behaviors, but we can also check to see, are they using all of the tools that we've provided for them?
Yeah, I'm curious because I do see a lot of 2 p.m., 1 p.m. classroom behaviors. Now I know that their recess is at 10:30, so they go to lunch at 11. That's a long stretch in the afternoon. So I wonder if there's any additional ideas for ways that we can break up the afternoon to make it a little more appropriate for them. And maybe that would help reduce some of those afternoon disruptions. And again, they are minor, but we all know that if we can be proactive about it now, will prevent it escalating into a much larger, uncontrollable problem.
Why don't we set some time at our next staff development day to whereas we can actually then review some of those brain breaks that we talked about at the beginning of the school year? Because what the beginning of the school year is like. We are all over the place, just making sure that our kiddos get on the right bus, out the right door. So it wouldn't hurt for us to revisit it.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think I got that captured.
Well, Jessica, we're almost at time.
Okay. So we do have a few action items that Matthew, I think you were capturing. So we are going to go ahead and follow up with Tori and make sure that we're looking a little deeper into her specific data. Marla, you're going to reach out to the fourth grade team to talk through some recess strategies and not just the teaching, but also, as Matt mentioned, some acknowledgments. Making sure that we're using that system even on the playground or during indoor recess, as well as maybe some possible brain breaks then for the whole staff to revisit. And then we'll follow up with those at our next meeting.
Yeah, I'll make sure I get these in our Google folder, as well as get that stuff transferred into the action plan too.
Great, thanks.
Well, thank you.
That's another great meeting.
Always. No other place I'd rather be.
We would like to conclude this video with an optimistic closure. Now that you've learned about action plans and had an opportunity to look at a team discussion around data, What do you need to do to turn your actions into words? We would like you to take a minute to revisit your intention that you set at the beginning of this video. Please consider any additional questions or thoughts you have based on our data discussion or our action plan or action plan calendar, and bring those thoughts or those questions to our office hours that are going to take place on October 6th. So we look forward to seeing everyone online for that discussion about this presentation. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We look forward to seeing you online at our office hours, and we hope to see you at our future coaches network meetings and additional office hours that we have available. Thank you.